Hey, it's Lady Colleen Heller, welcoming you back to another Now Reality podcast. Today we're talking about the land, nature, the sacredness of nature, and how it reflects back in our lives, be it at work or home or in any way that we choose to live. I'm inviting you to join in this conversation already in progress with myself and Louise Amelia Phelps, a visionary, author, maker creator, publisher, and artist. Louise is also known for growing dye plants and self-dyeing various materials she sheared, spun, then dyed and woven together after years of working with plants privately and personally. She's also a sacred land walker for over 20 years. It takes strength, courage, and resolution to work through a sacred land walking protocol. It challenges you constantly, seeking knowledge outside of the normal realms of thinking and being. It is a task not everyone wishes to take. Thank you for listening and enjoy the
For
podcast.
me, when I first went through sacred land walking, um, my question was, what's sacred? What's sacred? It's just we're walking the land. Why is it sacred? What does that mean? What's a sacred land walker? Everyone's a sacred land walker if they honor the land, but the truth is they're not. To be a sacred land walker, you have to understand the sacredness of what you're doing. And that is not taught. When you learn as a child to go play in nature, you're not learning about asking permission, touching with permission, sitting back and absorbing with permission. None of that sacredness is taught versus the Native Americans that I'm speaking from, because that's the ones I know. Um, they're always offerings and giving back to the land, whether it's tobacco or incense or a song or humming or bringing water or whatever it may be. There is a mutual respect between human and nature. It's not separate, like you just take. Humans just go take pull trees like, no big deal. How would you like me to pull your hair like that? Would that make you happy? Probably not. So it's not going to make the tree happy either. And having that kind of understanding from a young age will change the world, I think, because respect comes from then. You don't, it's hard to bring a respect much later in life. Sort of what you experienced is that you had to go out and find information that wasn't right in front of you or easily accessible by what you knew, which you've said already. But the more respect you had, the more concentration, the more consciousness you put to it, not the easier. Well, it was a little bit easier as you went along, but you realized it was really simple. There wasn't all this mindset onto it. You just had to stop the mind and just accept what you were hearing, getting, feeling, understanding. And it didn't have to have a book behind each thing you did. You were creating the book. You were the book. And your relationship starts from the first time you take a breath. It's the first time that you can understand nature from its true form. And I think sacred land walking's the goal of it was to bring all those qualities together. So, yeah, I loved it. I loved it. It was hard work, but I had more green to deal with, and broken branches and starry nights. Lots of star work. Lots of go on the hill and stare at the stars over. Lots of star work. I think the first thing that happened to me the first remembrance I have of stars was laying on a hill by my cousin's house. So I must have been, I would say, whatever first grade is, second grade is, I don't know anymore. That age, laying and looking up at the stars and saying, what are we doing here? Why are we here? Don't you wonder why we're here? And he's like, no, no, I'm going to go play ball now. Yeah. But I did. I wanted to know, what are we here? Why is there a star system? How come I'm looking at that? And then I look here and there's no stars here. I had all these questions at such a young age. Sacred land walking just seemed to be the connecting piece for me at the time I was studying it to understand more of that. What is it that I saw then and how can I use it and express myself through it? And where I am today is completely about the whole thing. I never went off that path since the first day, but it was hard work, but it changed my whole outlook, changed my whole mental awareness. It expanded my brain. I wasn't always thinking about the answers. I was seeking the answers without using my ego so much. The fact that I can seek, that's ego will. But what I get from that, like I think I'm going to find this and I don't, sooner or later, like you experienced, what you knew to be true doesn't work at all. There's nothing that you know that's going to make this new job work. It's completely blank. And that blankness is a great gift because from it, you pop into this whole new understanding and new knowing. And then you get to grow, right?
Yes. And that is a hard thing for people to give up sometimes. I've noticed that with a little bit of teaching that I have done, I did notice that it's a very strong hold. There's a lot in that helping and allowing somebody to kind of make that first step.
Yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
the work starts with the hold, the grip and the hold that we have on it, and it can be for a lot of reasons, but that is the first step to it. So there is so much depth to it, and that to learning and like offerings and having reverence, they're very much talked about. Um, but there is um like a whole area within that when you were describing the feeling of when you start doing that offering, when you walk and paying attention and watching where you go, that's like the surface entry points, but the subtleties that go on in that moment are there's a lot going on to discover, and even in that one thing, there's a lot to learn.
Do you have any question or any thought or something that you remember from your time with Sacred Land Walking, even though you're still a Sacred Land Walker, that you would like to talk about now? Anything that comes up either in the teaching or the guidance of it or the respect and reverence of it? Is there anything? Oh, there's your face. Go ahead.
No, it's just the opportunity, the question opportunity. It's like, oh God. And questioning is you do learn another thing in it. Questioning, the art of questioning is really important, and it is
Yeah.
a massive art, and it's touched on in different myths and legends that relate. You might talk about that next, maybe the mythology and the stories, but yeah, questioning comes up a lot in myths and legends, and being you really learn how to ask the question, but to ask the question, you have to really think about what you're asking. What do you want to know? So again, another thing with sacred language is I really learned how to really think about questions.
The art of questioning is very difficult. Also, the art of a single-minded questioning, which is
Yeah.
necessary in every walk of life, not a question that has 16 different ways it can go and answer, but one question that's directed and the answer has to be directly related to that. That
Yeah.
is an art. And you
Yeah.
started learning that from Sacred Land Walking.
Yes. Because a lot of time, generally in life as a whole, people are like, "What's the answer? What's the answer? We need to find an answer to this problem. We need to find an answer to the problem." But really, it's like, yes, but first of all, you need to really find and be sure about the question that we're asking. It's not chasing an answer, it's that working on the question.
And you know about that, Lou, is when you're working on a question, it's kind of trying. You know, you get a lot of anxiety from trying to hone it down into a single-minded thought. It's
Mm.
anxious, like, well, I said it like this. I don't know how to make it last. Okay, what if we look at this way? What if we look at it that way? But but when you do that, there's an essence of the question. It's when you have it, you're like, you feel like, oh, that's it. That is exactly what it is. And
Mm.
that feeling you have, that calmness that comes with understanding you hit the right words for what you want,
Yeah.
there's a peace. And now you're ready to hear the answer. Because when you have too many thoughts in the question, you're picking out bits and pieces of answers and then trying to jam them all into the question you really have, but never asked. and there's more stress and more confusion. What's good about the earth is when you're grounding, when you're walking on her, you are taking your electromagnetic field and the magnetic field and making them kind of like do this in a peaceful joined place. And whatever you're thinking of sort of singles itself out as you go. You'll find you hone in without a lot of stress. And it's an interesting thing to do, even if you're conscious or not. You'll find that there you are. Let's say you have to go outside and water all the plants. Okay. But it's so hot. You just know you're not going to get through all the plants. But there are some that really need the water now. They're not going to make it through the day. They have to get watered. But you can see that, right? You see it. Okay, this one needs it, this one needs it, and then I need to go back in and get a shower because I'm so hot. That's the same thing in the essence that comes through when you're ground walking. When you're grounding as you walk, it's like you need to address this or that, but you don't need to address the forest. So it clears your mind, it stops you from thinking, it centers you. It's a great way to discover yourself. Who are you? Walk outside with no shoes on. Go sit next to a tree. Let you separate from the who you think you are to the who you are. And nature affords that. Sacred landwalkers understand that. Indigenous people knew that. All the medicine that they got was from where? Somebody taught them that if they ate that berry, they'd die? No, they discovered that the hard way. And then it passed down orally over and over again. You can eat this one, don't eat that one. Today, you put somebody with two berries, they're going to eat them because they look like they're a nice color. Let's have that one, it looks sweet. You're dead. You know, there's no information from the wisdom that's been gathered that's passed on. But when you're out and you're walking and you're in a place, first thought is don't eat anything. Second thought is take some things carefully and look them up, try to understand them better for the next time. But most importantly, if you're just listening to the ground and you're not trying to do any of that, you'll be directed towards and away from things naturally, because your instinct, your knowing that comes from all your past is walking with you. You're not ever alone. And it's not outside of you. It's coming right through you. It's an internal recognition. You don't have to go outside of yourself to get that. It's just right here. And sacred land walking is what everyone should be doing. It affords you that great opportunity of peace and calm and answers without stress and anxiety and strain. Yeah. I've talked you into silence.
Matt, I'm just letting that settle.
It's a gift to have nature as your landscape. No, you don't have to make a house. You don't have to have a car. Well, we do have to have some things to get around, but you don't have to. There's lots of, if you didn't have certain things, you would go around them. People that don't drive, they move their life around not having a car. People who live in apartments that want a tree, they go to a park. There's lots of ways around. It's not necessary to have all the things everyone says. It's a choice, but it's not necessary to live.
We have a small garden and all our plants are in pots. And, you know, I do need earth and ground and land to plant in, which we have an allotment now, which is solving that. But I was just sitting with my plants in the pots and I realised it was a chamomile plant I sat next to. And I was like, oh, just having a moment of imagining an acre. And I was looking at this plant and realizing there was no need for an acre. One chamomile plant is like one plant, a chamomile plant could be a dandelion or an unidentified, any little, anything growing out of a wall.
Any little weed, you mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the word weed. I don't
yeah,
believe
me
in
either. That's what I said.
So weed, no, just any greenery. You've got a whole universe right there. You don't need an acre or anything. It's
No,
like
just a pot.
every plant, every whole universe.
You know, even here, because there's not land to make a garden, but I've you know, you can grow onions in a plastic bag if you want. It's always, nature's always trying to feed us what we need. It's always trying to give us what we need. We just have to stop thinking it fits in these patterns that we were taught. It doesn't. It doesn't. It fits in any pattern it wants. I mean, and it's seasonal. I mean, I chickweed growing like crazy here, and then the season changes and it dies back. So now it's not the time to eat it. Okay, but it was when it was. Same with all the liver tonics that grow in the spring and come back in the autumn. They're all for those time of the year. So that's when you should be ingesting them. Nature's always telling you what you need to do to be the best. You just have to listen. And I think that what I tell everyone, if you want to be a sacred land walker, start walking barefoot. And if you can't walk it, stand in it. Find a place where there's grass and stand on it. If you go to the park and you said, oh, the dog might have peed there. Yeah, not for nothing. But every land you walk on, even if it looks pristine to you, has got something on it. Wash your feet when you go home. What is, you know, there's nothing to that answer to be afraid of. Nothing. But nature will talk to you and will tell you. Now here we have lantern flies, and lantern flies eat all the greens and it kills the tree. Right? And we had it bad last year. Everyone was going to the parks collecting and killing off, because you have to kill them. You can't save them. They will just grow into more and more. Everyone was going into the parks and saying how much they didn't want them there and they need to move on. And if I catch you, I'm going to kill you. And they did that. And then the next year there were hardly any. And this year there's none. But they're everywhere else. But the mindset and the care and the helping of the trees and the people, that goes between you and the tree, and it gets spread from tree to tree to tree. These people are here to help you. Let them do that. And you have to pass this on. Shake your own leaves. No wind, leaves are shaking. How is that possible? To get them off of you. These are going to kill you. And now it's hardly anything at all. A couple I've seen in the whole season. That's a big deal. And that's people helping the trees. Not, you know, it's about time you did something. Do that, you know.
But there's sometimes there's a lot of grief about loss of nature, which is important to acknowledge. So I'm not diminishing that at all, but I have noticed it is getting in the way of people interacting with nature. It's like mourning the trees before they've gone. It's on the doorstep. And I've noticed there's a point when it can be slightly less helpful because it keeps people pulled down a bit, and instead of really grasping what you've described as the capacity and ability human beings have to create change to the trees.
Listen, the most important thing about all that you just said in one nut is that people have to remember that you are not here to witness nature. You are here to be a guardian of her. You are here on this earth as a guardian of the earth. You're not here to take advantage of, not be responsible for, or just throw your hands in the air and say, oh, help me. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. So if you walk out consciously and put joy in the landscape, whether you're laughing, you're playing with your kid like you're literally playing, not watching them play, it has to be an emotional complexity, but a happy one. I mean, when we have grief, it is so wet and overbearing, and sometimes you don't know what to do with it. We sit in it way too long. The grief of the living over someone who's passed is not what the past person wants you to have. They understand they've passed. What the grief is, they won't be there with you, but they are with you. You just have to accept them on a different level. And the same thing is with being outside in nature. You have to accept the vastness that the trees have for themselves in their own environment and what they're attached to right next to them themselves in other countries. Trees, like people, don't have one dimension. They vibrate out and vibrate out and vibrate out. The root systems of trees in one particular area, we now know through science that they will nourish a tree stump and keep it alive. After it's been cut down, there's no chance. And funny enough, all of a sudden they start growing branches. They shouldn't be able to. No leaves, just a stump means nothing. But in a forested area, you will see it's not dead. It stays and its shape starts to grow other things, or it starts to grow again. Unheard of, but it's happening. It's happening. How? Because under the system, in their root system, they are feeding it what it's missing. If it needs sugars, it gives it sugars. If it needs water, it's giving it water. If other plants that are not from the same species are in trouble, they are feeding that too. Their goal is to do what we should be doing, nurturing each other and our space to be as abundant as possible with ease, with ease. Yes, do you have to focus? Yes. Do you have to be conscious? Yes, all that is true. But let's imagine that with all the horrors going around the world, everyone is complaining because just stop the horrors. And, this is my thing about that. Humans have the great capacity of love and joy and happiness, and equally great capacity to kill, maim, hurt, and destroy. We are not just one thing, and no one is going to be the one only. There are times in the life of a person where they know they could probably have hurt somebody. They're capable of it. They don't need to see it. If someone went to grab your daughter and you had a knife, would you stop them? Or would you say, let her go, let her go? No, you would kick it all in, and that person would either have no hand or they would be stopped in the back and fall to the ground, and you'd grab your child. That is a fact. We all carry it. The problem is knowing we can, but not using it unless we're forced to. In our world, because of greed and many other things, we're not forced to be in wars. That's how we make money. Humans can put an emotional quality to it so that wars can happen. Oh, we have to do that to protect ourselves. It doesn't matter if we kill millions of people so I can protect my one person. No, this is what's wrong with humanity today. And when you go outside in nature and just consciously be part of the real joining, the real understanding, the real commitment to life on this planet, you become very centered, and all of those feelings just don't exist. It's like, I can't understand why that would be okay, and why so many people think it's okay, one over the other. There's no I'm on first and you're on second. There's no chosen one. There's no you're better than me. There's none of that. That's a human concept, period. It's not set in the natural world. It's not. There are some places where you'll find trees, they're growing, and because of the canopy overhead, the tree can't get enough light, right? So the tree will dwarf out, or it won't grow at all. It will die. It'll back off because you need sunlight. It's not that the trees want to do that. They just have no way of shedding the canopy down enough to let other undergrowth grow. That's just nature. Like people, some people will die from causes that are nature, versus some people are, let's hack that tree down so we can give that little tree some light. That's not an answer. So I think once we go outside of the box of what we've been taught is okay and acceptable and really realize it's not, there'll be a different change. And it happens in your feet. You do not have to go to a war-torn country and say, okay, I'll shoot you back. How is that going to work? It's not. It's just reiterating the need to kill, maim, harm, hurt. But if you're here, or let's say you're close to wherever, and you choose to take people and feed people and bring people to whatever, bringing joy and happiness and care, yeah, go for it. But if you're not there, you have the earth. She'll send whatever you feel to anyone else who's stepping on her. Anyone, anywhere. So if you want to send joy and happiness, what do you think that's going to do for the person that's really sorrowful? It's going to give them a reprieve. It's going to give them some light. And that light can carry you through without any food or water for quite a long time. So I say, go outside, take a walk. If you want to help our crazy life, take a walk outside. I've asked other people, but this is my favorite thing to say to people. Where's the sky? And what does everyone do? They point up.
Yeah.
I said, oh, where did it end? If the sky's up, where's its base? Where did it end? And they all say the same thing. in the trees and like, so what are you standing in? I'm standing on the earth. Yeah, but what are you standing in? The air. Oh, so you're standing in the air and you're standing on the earth and the sky stopped in the trees. Said, or could it be that you're standing in the sky on earth?
Mm.
And when I say that, people like get the great dawning, like, oh, oh yeah. Why didn't I ever think of that before? You are sacred land walking as you are middle, the beginning, and the ending of space, air, sky, earth. You're in all of it is happening at once. And you are the conduit to all of it. You are the connector of the sky above and the earth below, and the air that surrounds you that lives in the sky and comes off of the trees because the air we breathe is because trees take carbon dioxide off of us on our exhale and they give us oxygen. So that whole layer of vibration that's there, people seem to know it's there and figured through the feeling the sky stopped here because that's where the oxygen's coming from in that vibratory field. And we're down here, that they have no relationship to the sky and your space that you're in. But it makes sense because they're sensing that vibrational switch, that level, and interpreting as disattached to the air you're breathing. The sky is here. It's not up there. We're in it. But the trees creating the oxygen creates a field, which we can perfectly happily live in, but it does make it feel like you have a hat on. The sky's above my hat and the air is below it because they can't name it. So that's why they do it. And I just found that very fascinating when I was discovering skywalking and land walking. I think skywalking to me is just a new term for land walking because you always understand the sky. You always look to the trees for answers. So there was no skywalking as much as later on in life because we have buildings and other things now.
Mm.
Yeah, I really feel that sacred land walking covers a huge bit of what people are missing. They're missing it because no one told them how. No one gave them a chance to learn it. That's why I like to teach it. But it's rough, as you know. Although I wouldn't be that hard now. Anyway, we're done with this podcast. Thank you so much, Louise. It's always great to sit and talk to you. Do you have anything else you might want to say before we close out?
No, it's a great subject. There's so much to talk about, and again, like just scratch the surface of the conversation.
Yeah. I think that gaining wisdom through path walking, sacred land walking is path walking. Gaining the wisdom from that comes from experiential work. You have to experience it consciously in order for it to become something that you will be able to do without thinking about it. So you think about it at first, and later on it becomes your natural way of going, and more information comes to you, and you feel more grounded, happier, and you're less anxiety, less stress, yeah, less dealings with the future, and really you're in your now. And that is where everything happens. It happens in the breath that you're in. And sacred land walking, even though you went out on walks, you had to be conscious of every step because you were looking for answers in every step. And for you, that meant every breath. You were very present in that time. And you did a great job, Liv. And I loved your cards, which we have to look at again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Lady Colleen Heller. Thank you for listening again to another podcast with my guest, Louise Amelia Phelps. Louise, how can people find you? Your
Um,
website or?
my website is louiseameliaphelps.com, and my Instagram as well, Louise Amelia Phelps with a PHELPS, that kind of Phelps at the end.
And what are the names of your books in case anyone wants to go to Amazon and find them?
Oh. They are on my website, and there's a series of three: Bonds, Braids, and Belonging, Becoming the Garden and the Iron Heart, which looks at the creativity and the making process and the materials involved in that.
Great. And are they available on Amazon or just through your website?
Just through my website at the moment.
Okay, great. So now you know where to find her stuff. She has beautiful art. She has beautiful braiding. She uses natural dyes. She does it herself. She weaves herself. She constructs herself. Everything Louise does is what handmade really means. It's a handmade by a hand maker. So
yeah.
Thank you so much, Lou. And thank you, everybody else. The next podcast will be up in a week. I don't know what the title is going to be yet. You'll have to find out. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.